Hi everyone, it's Angela from She Simply Impacts, and as always we're very excited. We're about to have our panel discussion, and we've got a very exciting topic today. It's about amplifying our voices, being heard, supported and becoming unstoppable. We've got a fabulous group of women here, and Sabina can introduce us all, and she is going to facilitate. Sabina Armbruster. So I will hand it over.
Thank you. Welcome, everyone. And as Angela just said, the topic of today is Amplify Your Voice, being heard, supported, and becoming unstoppable. I am not going to introduce you guys. I'm going to get you guys to introduce yourself. So just in 30 seconds, so short, give us a quick rundown of who you are, what you do, and then we'll go further, delve deeper as we go along. Angela, do you want to start?
Sure. So most people know me. I'm the founder of She Simply Impacts. I'm a personal brand strategist and a business coach. And I founded She Simply Impacts from, I guess, my own lived experience of growing up in a family of domestic violence and mental illness, and then my professional experience that led me to realize that there was a gap in the market, and what was lacking was affordable personal and professional development, affordable coaching. And so I wanted to create that, and that's why we're here.
Beautiful. She Simply Impacts exists. Thank you, Angela. Tanya, would you like to go next?
Sure, thanks, Sabine. My name is Tanya. I'm a mum of three, wife of one. I'm a professionally qualified life coach, and I support women to create more control over their time and their energy. My lived experience is, I have made my husband and my children's happiness my main priority for 30 odd years of my life. And whilst making everybody else happy, I made myself miserable. And so I learned the hard way what happens when you don't prioritize self-care, and when you don't set strong boundaries, and when you don't make time for yourself and have, control, like I said, over your time and energy. So that's what I support women to do now.
Oh, what a common story, isn't it? Thank you, Tanya. Jen, would you like to go next?
Absolutely. Thank you, Sabine. I'm a spiritual transformation coach and holistic healer, and I support women to release from negative emotion, limiting beliefs, all the stuff that holds us back from the past, so you can truly come back to your center and realize your worth and find your passion and connect to your guides and your intuition to step into your life. So yeah, that's me.
Thank you. There's so much more out there, isn't there?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, Natasha.
Hi, I'm a member of She Simply Impacts, so I'm not a coach. I'm a member for the last few months.
Very valued member too. Glad you're still here.
I'm not going anywhere. It's fantastic, the support I've been getting. So I always describe myself as a quirky clinical psychologist. Originally from the UK, now living in Brisbane. And I ran away from government disability services to set up my own practice, which is called Consentability. And I work with people with intellectual or cognitive disabilities and their support network in the area of sexuality, relationships, consent, and safeguarding. And I came to She Simply Impacts because I was feeling quite isolated, sort of just doing my work in my own little sort of, little silo, I guess. So very much wanting some community and some support. Yeah, that's me.
Certainly you'll find that in She Simply Impact. Thank you, Natasha. And I'm Sabina. I have a business called She Momentum, and my main focus is to help women that are in that midlife stage of what am I going to do next? What am I going to do for myself? I help them get their businesses going, and I help them, really find that independence and that control of their life, so that they know they do not need to rely on other people. Everything they do is on them, and I help them just take off and fly. So that's what I'm all about. But today I am here to facilitate this panel, and it's going to be a beauty. So sorry, girls, I've got a few good questions for you. But we are going to start about talking about amplifying and finding your voice. So finding and using your voice to impact others is not always easy, and it doesn't come naturally to everyone. I mean, we're all different types of people. You know, we've got introverts, extroverts, we've got, you know, people that are great at conversation and others that struggle to, you know, go into a group and make small talk. So, you know, there are others that are just simply listeners. How do you find your voice? If you have something, a message to tell the world, how do you stand out and find your voice if it doesn't come naturally? Angela, would you like to start?
Certainly. So this is like, for me, finding my voice was actually quite, frightening, especially my voice in She Simply Impacts, because as a professional with skills and, like expertise, it's sort of much easier. Like, I've done a lot of speaking in my professional realm, in my professional sort of hat. But when it came to She Simply Impacts, which was very personal, it was like the next evolution of my career and my story from my childhood, which I'd never really shared before, my lived experience. It was really scary. And also my mission to unite 1 million women in the transformation of our potential into reality, the expansion of our positive impact, the equality of our voices, and to end the quest, the plight of underprivileged women and children. I felt so timid, like a tiny little, it was really confronting. And
So it was harder because it was personal?
It was harder, I think, because of the mission is so big. And so it's a very big mission. And it was harder because I had to bring my personal story into it in order to really, the founder story is really tied up with my own lived experience. And so I found that really difficult. But how I overcame the hurdle is that I got coaching. It all comes back to coaching for me, the power of having a coach. So
all right, let's talk about coaching as we go on. That's something to remember, though, that we need to go back to that. Jen, how about you? What's your, what type of person are you, and how did you find your voice?
So I've always been, in the past, someone who was seen but not heard, and probably bogged down by beliefs that were imparted to me in my growing up, which happens to everyone. So, you'd be seen, not heard. And I was also a people pleaser. So always doing the things for people to make sure that I got, that they were happy, like you were saying, Tanya. So, so to find my voice, I had to do the work, do the mindset shifts to actually release those beliefs that were deep-seated in my unconscious mind and actually come back to my truth. And it's only now that I feel that I can say the things I want to say without the fear of judgment of others. And I think it's about finding your people and finding who you feel safe and secure in speaking your truth to, whether it's a big group or one person like a coach or a mentor. Yeah.
Jen, do you think it was harder for you because of the industry that you're in? I mean, you in that space, you have a lot of people around you, especially growing up, that don't understand that space. Do you think that made it harder for you?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, that was a massive fear of mine, is to actually be known and be seen in this spiritual world and with the beliefs that I have, because these are my beliefs and they're not necessarily anyone else's. And that's really important too. On the other end is, not having to take on other people's beliefs as you're moving along. So yes, that was a big fear of mine, actually being the person I wanted to be, authentically in this life. And this is who I am. I just want to be someone who I live, help others to see their truth in them and be able to live the way that they truly desire and have fun doing it. It's about fun, I think.
Love it. I love that you said
resonates with me what Jen was saying about that. Sorry to jump in there, talking about finding your voice. So for me, in terms of what you were saying, Jen, I think I had a voice when I was young. Like when I was a toddler and I was at kindy, I had a voice. I think I had a bit too much of a voice. I was apparently on the naughty mat quite a lot for talking and not listening. Undiagnosed ADHD, but that was what was going on there. So my voice was quietened and silenced, and I learned to, just keep quiet. And then I found my voice through speaking on behalf of others. So that's when I got into my work, in terms of people with intellectual or cognitive disabilities, where I was finding myself speaking up and advocating for people. And that really helped me, because it wasn't what I thought it was. I was just sort of, helping someone else. I quite like helping people. And then through that, I found my own voice, because it was aligned with my values. I knew that I was speaking up about things that were right in terms of my values. So that's something that helped me.
It's kind of about finding your tribe, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
Once you find your people. Yeah. I was just going to say, Jen, I love what you said, and we are going to talk a little bit more about that. And that is my beliefs. My beliefs are not other people's beliefs. And that's absolutely true. And I just wanted to quickly ask Tanya, so you, as that people pleaser, you're always making sure that your family was happy and that they were cared for. At what point did you decide that you needed to change, that you needed to look after yourself? I guess it's like being on that plane and you watch that air mask drop, and they always tell you you've got to look after yourself before you look after your children. I guess it's like that. You start to realize that actually does happen.
Yeah.
So at what point did you realize that you needed to look after yourself?
It was a gradual process. Like, there was definitely the acknowledgement and the awareness within me that, like, I was bloody miserable. That, it was, for me, it was sort of like I convinced myself, and I tried to convince my family, that this is a two-way street. I look after you, you look after me. And, the wheels fell off that, like, right from the get-go, because I was giving and not receiving anything in return. So the awareness was there for years. And then it became even more prominent when, I'd be sitting on the sideline of my kids' sport, and I'd hear a mum say, I've always wanted to do this, but I'm a mum and I've got a husband. And I'd be sitting there absolutely fuming, going, you have got to be kidding me. They are old enough to look after themselves. He's a grown man. You're not his mother. And so I couldn't actually, fully acknowledge that in myself, but I could definitely see it in other mums. And then for me, it came back to similar to Angela with the coaching. I got myself, I went through a 6-week self-love program with a life coach, and every single one-on-one session with her, all I did was bitch and complain about my husband. And it got to the point where the whole, open-ended questions and stuff weren't working. And she just looked me in the eye and said, at some point, like, you are allowing this. You chose this. You are doing this. You're facilitating this process, and you need to take control and change that around. And it was like a light bulb went off. It was like a weight lifted off my shoulders. I was like, oh my God, he's not the asshole that I thought he was. Like, I am creating this process. And that was a huge game changer for me. It's not like everything changed overnight and it was, all unicorns and rainbows, but I realized that I had the control. It was my choice to create this habit within our relationship. And now I had the power to do something about it.
Do you think awareness is the first step?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because it was, I had a similar traumatic childhood with a very verbally abusive father. So I was taught at a very young age, you keep quiet and you keep the man in your life happy. Otherwise, there's yelling and screaming and holes being punched in walls and that sort of stuff. So I was that was the childhood that I was raised with. And for years I thought, it was a safety mechanism. I need to keep the men in my life happy. So but having that realization that I was absolutely miserable, that this wasn't the way that I wanted to live my life, that there were things that I wanted to do. There was a person that I wanted to be that I wasn't being. So definitely like self-awareness, and dealing with your own, you know, baggage and demons, and is always, I think, the very first step.
Right. Natasha, you talked about transformation as well. So you've all talked about transformation, but there was a big part of what you spoke about was was coming into that awareness as well of what it is that you should be doing or who you should be around. Was there a significant stage that, you know, that you came to in life, or a significant situation where you went, oh my God, this has got to change, or I have to change? Was there something that happened, or did you just develop this awareness over time?
So I guess there were two things, and it was interesting listening to what Tanya was saying, because as Tanya was talking, I was thinking, yes, that's what happened to me. Also in my personal life, awareness, but also awareness that things can be different. So I sort of, okay, this is what parents do. And I had a very cranky, angry mum, and I was a cranky, angry mum. And okay, that's just maybe what mums are like. And it's actually, no, there's something going on. I need to change my personal life. But also with my work and my business, it actually sort of got to a crisis sort of situation where I was aware, and I sort of felt like I was kind of battling, and I was trying to do education sessions. And so someone in the team said, this actually isn't a priority, Natasha, and, you know, not seeing it as very, very important. And the turning point for me was around a particular issue. And there was an issue that was happening in a house. And I said, okay, well, let me do a group. I'll put on a group. We'll have an education session for the young people with disabilities around sexuality and relationships. And people got very, very stressed. So it went to my manager. It just kept getting escalated to almost like, you know, clinical director services. And then they talked to, like, you know, some legal person, and they said, no, we're not doing this, you know, trouble, stress. And I got annoyed. And that's when I started going, okay, I need to plan my exit, and I need to create something. And that's when consentability, the seeds for that started, because it came from a place of sort of, I guess, like fire in my belly. You know, you had sometimes you sort of, you know, this is what it's like, government services, it's difficult, but it's like I got this fire. I was like, actually, no, I actually can't just tolerate this. I'm aware that it can be different. It's different in different countries. It's different in different states, even other than Queensland. I'm going to do something about it. And it was actually my then partner who sort of said, well, you keep moaning, you keep coming home moaning, and you're crying every Sunday night because you have to go to work the next day. Why don't you do something about it? Again,
that's an interesting one. So,
fine.
Natasha, how do you teach someone that is not aware, but they're not happy? How do you teach them or explain to them that awareness of themselves or their situation is so important?
I guess it was sort of thinking about, am I being the sort of person that I want to be in this situation? So I can't remember the particular phrase, but it's something about bad things happen when good people stay silent. I don't know if you know, do you know the quote? I can't remember the quote. And I guess sort of being aware of that and thinking, well, actually, I'm a good person who wants to do good things, and I don't want people being abused, and I want to help people, but I'm staying here and I'm being quiet. I need for everything to be in alignment, my values and my actions and my integrity, I need to be doing something different, because my views are not going to change around that. So
Great.
it was, yeah.
Let's talk about values then. Angela, you talk about values a lot to people. How does that fit in with speaking up and being heard and getting a message out there?
Yeah, well, I think that it's like, you know, my values of community, collaboration, philanthropy, they were all values that I have, you know, and I've carried those values with me. Integrity, the values of you know, compassion, and even the value of affordability, you know, it's like, and the value of empowerment, or the value of transformation. So those threads run through my whole life. And
do you think that comes through when you speak? Because you do a fair bit of speaking.
yes, I do. I think it does, because what happened ultimately was that I got to the point where I wanted to really align what I do deeply with my values. And so the model for She Simply Impacts. And I transitioned my career at the end of 2017 into coaching because I wasn't fulfilled, because I wanted to have more fulfillment, and I'd had an experience of coaching, and I always wanted to be a coach, but I never thought I was good enough. So I wanted to be a coach like a decade earlier, and I never thought I was good enough. But then eventually so yes, I think the values and finding my voice, where it just got to the point where I could see a solution. Like, I want to make a difference in this area. I can see a solution. I can create one. And it just got to the point where it's like, well, don't want to live just for survival anymore. I want to create something that's more legacy orientated, and that's actually, really aligned with who I am as a person. Like, if I die prematurely, at least I've given this a shot. And that's how I was feeling. It was like,
nice.
At least I've done it. At least I've put aside my own fear and aligned all of it. The lived experience, the professional.
And had a positive impact.
Yeah, my belief.
Jen, what's your biggest passion?
I think my biggest passion is living a life from a place of love and enjoyment of life. And so for me, and this has only been, like, I've always been someone who loves life and loves connecting, and, but it's really come to light, I think, for me in the past, well, probably this year, that everything I do now is coming from a place of love. And I want others to be able to experience this. And I want others to be able to know that our minds are so incredibly powerful. We can shift how we think about things just by thinking about it, or visualizing and tapping into all of our senses. And,
success is such a broad word, but do you think that there is more success when you're in alignment in the way that you are?
For me, yes, absolutely, because I'm having fun while I'm doing it, and I'm driven by this passion, and so for me, definitely, absolutely.
And do you think that passion pushes you out of your comfort zone?
Yes. We were just talking before about marketing and branding and being seen on social media, and I was like, at the moment I'm just in my lull, and so I need to go back to that passion and know what I want, what I want to achieve, so that I can bring that out again and start my posts up again in the marketing.
All right.
That's a really simple example, but we were just talking about that previously.
So I'm going to go to Tanya on that one. How could Jen do that? Do you have some techniques or strategies with how she can reconnect with herself to make that happen?
Yeah, absolutely. It's because I've been through the same sort of thing, and it's really tapping into that passion, that authenticity, understanding who you truly are, what it is that you want to be able to do, and why, the why behind, why you started this in the first place. Why is it so important to you? Why is it that you want to reach out to whoever you want to reach out to? What is it that you want them to be able to create? And I think that's what really drives us. That's what reignites that fire. And
so if we're working at home on a daily basis, and we're so stuck in our heads, how do you reconnect with that why? I find it sometimes difficult to reconnect with my why until I have a conversation with someone.
Yeah.
I've got to verbalize it. But so what else could you do? When we're stuck at home, what else can you do? You get up in the morning, I've got to connect with my why. How am I going to do that? Tanya, how do you do that?
I really think it's important for ourselves, and to be checking in with them on a regular basis, whether it's, you all get together for a virtual chat online once a week to really motivate each other and check in and see, how you're going this week, how's your energy, what are you up to, what are you working on, how can we support each other. So it's really finding those people that have a similar sort of passion to you. And it doesn't have to be the same industry. All it is the same sort of, I mean, speaking with us, we're all a group of women, but a group of women who are not competing with each other. They're not comparing themselves to each other. They just want each of the members of their coven. I like to call it a coven because we're all a bunch of witches. We want us all to create magic and to grow and to fly, like you were saying at the beginning. I think it's super important when we're working for ourselves and we're isolated at home to create, that really close knit group around us. And whether you have, virtual meetings or you like meet up in a coffee shop or whatever it is, or you all get together for a wine, it's just, I think it's super important for us to create our tribe.
As well as that, if I could speak to that, so I do that, and I agree with Tanya. I think that's really important. But I also do some things by myself. So meditation has become really important to me. And I remember a few years ago being told to meditate every day and just feeling really cranky and I don't have time. I don't have time. Who's got time for this? And she actually said to me, she said, you're going to go from being so resistant and annoyed to thinking, yeah, I get to meditate. And that's exactly what's happened. So that journaling, sometimes I like to make things fun for myself. So I might sort of, look at, the astrology or the seasons that we're in and journal around those particular themes. And that helps me connect to myself and my values again. So for me, connection is really important, connection to others, but also connecting to myself and also creating those anchors for myself. And again, I remember having a conversation years ago and someone said, Natasha, you have to be your own anchor. And I was like, I don't want to be my own anchor. Boats have a separate anchor. I need help, But that again,
explain to us what that means. For those that don't know what an anchor
is,
explain to us what that is.
I guess different things for different people. But for me, there's a certain rhythm that I have for my life. And again, I'm very recently diagnosed with ADHD and I'm very resistant to routines and I'm forgetful. So I think of it more as a rhythm. So my rhythm of the day is that I wake up, I have an alarm that wakes me up, and then I have another alarm, which is get out of bed. So the alarm that wakes me up, I go to the toilet, come back, lie down, listen to a meditation. That's how I start my day. Could be 5 or 10 minutes, but I'm lying down, just listening to something. And then I'll have my journal just somewhere where I'm going to see it. And I'm not someone who can journal at a certain time, but at some time during the day, I will journal. Usually in the morning, I might read my horoscope. There's a particular app that I like. So I read, so these are all my anchors: meditating, checking in with astrology, writing something down, trying to have at least one nourishing meal, planning my meals at the night so that I know what I'm eating. I don't have to think about it.
There are some very simple strategies in there that are huge, that make a big difference. And journaling is one of them. I think people get stuck on how to journal, right? So, and meditation is the same thing. People start meditation, they go, oh, this doesn't work for me. And then they get frustrated and then it falls by the wayside. But journaling, I think you can just pick up a book and you can start writing. What am I going to write about today? Yeah. That's how you start. You just keep going and it starts.
Well, this is silly. I've got nothing to say. What am I saying? But actually writing that down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jen, when it comes to judgment.
Yes.
So we were talking before about judgment. You need to, I guess, to be able to find your voice, ignore that fear of judgment that a lot of people have. How do you do that? Because it's a fact, isn't it? There are people out there that judge.
Absolutely.
How do you silence that, that inner voice that says, oh, you're not good enough. You can't do this. You shouldn't be doing this.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the fear of judgment is firstly fear of judgment of self. So coming back to your self-worth and your self-trust and self-belief and really igniting that part of you. And then also setting clear boundaries if you need to, and just knowing that when others are speaking or judging, that's their perception. So really coming back to regulating your nervous system and really coming back to self and knowing that you're coming from a place of, uniqueness of your own soul rather than anyone else. Yeah.
So do you have a particular routine? Is there something that works for you?
In regards to morning routine or?
Well, in regards to, connecting with yourself so that you
Okay.
can go about your day in the way that you need to.
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, I am very much someone who loves nature. So that's my big thing. So I will take myself out into nature, shoes off, ground, clear my energy centers. So really come back to self and be grounded. I don't have a set routine. I find that I like to live by, there are no rules. I can do it whenever I need to, whenever I feel called to. And I usually meditate just before I go to sleep. That works for me. I've got a little puppy, so he wakes me up first thing in the morning. I'd love to meditate in the morning. It's just not going to happen for me. And so just before I go to sleep is my time where I can just slow everything down and then set my intentions for my sleep and the next day. And yeah, so no set routine. However, I do meditate and ground myself and get out in nature as much as I can and enjoy that beautiful sun energy as well.
Love it. And you have a very strict routine, don't you? Or is it a routine, or is it just something that you enjoy doing, so you spend a lot of time doing? And you know what I'm talking about. Talk us through that.
So, I mean, I meditate. This is my 30th year of meditating, and I practice the Vipassana technique, which is you go on these 10-day silent retreats, and it's a not-for-profit global organization. And so I dedicate 2 hours a day to meditation. And
how does that help you? What difference does it make?
Yes, it's like putting myself on recharge. It's like what Jen's saying about going out in nature. It's just observing the nature within myself. It's observing my sensations. It's observing change within my own body, and it's switching off. It's almost like becoming the self-witness of my inner. It's very practical because it's about either observing your natural respiration or observing your sensations on the body and training your mind not to react. So it's actually a really practical technique. So it's really about switching off the thought. So it's an alternative to thinking that can actually, it's evidence-based now, that like mindfulness, it's like it's not, so I find that really amazing. Like it just.
Do you find that it helps you find your voice? Do you find that it helps you with confidence and to get out there and do what it is you need to do, that message that you need to get across to people?
Yeah, I think what it does is it helps me out of reactivity, which then helps me with clarity. And then if I have clarity, then I can, make the choices about what my priorities are. And I think as I got older in my career and, now I'm in my middle 50s, that, it just who I really am and the impact I want to make, it just it's just how it's all evolved. But it's a very practical tool. So does it help me find my voice? Yes and no. Yes and no. I mean, it definitely helps me with clarity, and it helps me feel centered and grounded, like what Jen was saying, and it helps me feel vital so that and it helps me process all the negativity and just all the noise, because there's so much noise that we're subjected to. And then how do I sift through all that? So I guess it works for me to just keep that going. It's like.
So do you ever have days where you can go through all that and then you sit down at the computer and go blank?
I do. So I've got lots of other tools. I'm quite a routine person.
Share some, Ange.
So my main big thing is if I can get to the gym in the morning, like this year I quit the gym, or actually I quit the gym last August, and I just re-signed up in April, and it was the worst thing I ever did. And the reason I quit the gym was because I find the gym a bit noisy. It's like I don't love the atmosphere of the gym, but it just really, really cool. Like I've been going for years and years, and I thought, well, I'll buy a roller at home and I'll go for walks, and I do go for walks. So that's my best routine is meditate, go to the gym, come home, either write out my lists, write out my journal, just work. So I always spend time writing, whether it's very practical as far as what do I have to do today, my priorities, just read my strategies, what am I working on? So always, it's mainly those three things. And
we really need to work it out, don't we? Find out what works for us. It's so different for everyone, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah.
Very personal.
And also for me, I guess sort of doing it, and that's why I call it a rhythm rather than a routine, because what will happen if I have a routine is I'll forget about it, and then I'll be like, oh, and that's that self-blame, and oh, I failed yet again. And whereas I'm like, okay, this is a rhythm, and I go, oh, I haven't done it for a while. I'm just going to correct and continue. A bit like autopilot, you have to still just be going, oh, okay, the plane's going off now. I just need to nudge it back, just sort of, get.
Do you get to a point where you go, oh, there's something not quite right? You go off your rhythm, and then you go, there's something not quite right in my days or in my life at the moment. Wonder what that is. And then you go back to it. Do you find that happens?
Yeah. So that might be through journaling, or it might be through chatting, or even talking to my kids. And they might say, you haven't done this for a while, mummy, or because I really like various sort of creative activities. I like sewing and making soap. So my son's 14, and he might say, I haven't seen you make soap for ages, or I haven't seen you meditate during the day for ages, because sometimes I sneak off for a 10-minute meditation because they're driving me up the wall. Haven't seen you do that for a while, or we haven't done this thing. Or I might say to myself, well, when did I last, do this? Or am I drinking enough water? Or have I gone for a walk? Have I been outside recently? Because I work from home. And if I don't have my kids, it's not great. But sometimes I might not go outside for 2 or 3 days. So I'm like, okay, you need to get outside, Natasha. And the thing with the meditation, I think my meditation does help me with confidence and finding my voice, purely because I listen to so many different things. So I might listen to a guided meditation that's around a particular theme. So that, again, there's an app that I like that you can just put in what an issue is. You can put in feeling angry, feeling helpless, feeling, worried about judgment or whatever. And then there might be a lot of sort of affirmations or positive ways of thinking, which I find really, really affirming and validating.
Natasha, if you've got a great app, you're more than welcome to share it. And that goes for anyone else.
Yeah,
you're more than welcome.
I wasn't sure. I like Insight Timer, which you don't have to pay for. There's a lot of things on there that are just free. And I have a sort of Reiki practitioner that I sometimes get like a distance healing from, and she gives me an audio, and I love that. I use it like a meditation, and it might be about 40-50 minutes, and I will just listen to that. I actually meditate. I try to meditate morning and evening. So when I wake up and before I go to
love it.
Again,
you talked a lot about listening. I find sometimes that's a skill that we lose because there's just so much noise. Tanya, what is the effect, or what happens when we become good listeners again? Natasha talked about her 14-year-old saying, Mum, you haven't done this in a while. And sometimes we're so busy, we miss those things. But what does listening mean? And what is the benefit of it? What is the importance and the value of it?
I think true listening is going into a conversation with no predisposition, no judgment, no solution even. And that's something that I have definitely learned over the past few years with my kids. Like, my kids are 23, 21, and 14. And as a mum, my role, I always thought, was I need to protect them and I need to solve their problems. I need to always have a solution. And the older they've got and the more aware and sort of mature I have become, I have realized that a lot of the time all they need is somebody to listen, and to just witness them like going through what they need to go through. And I think the power of listening is being able to truly understand somebody else's perspective and somebody else's, you know, their life, their view of the world. And it's difficult. Like, it's not something that, you know, I learned to do as a child. I can remember multiple family gatherings where, you know, the winner was the person who talked the loudest over the top of everyone else. And that's what a lot of, and I'm becoming more aware of it now in my own friendship groups. It's like, you know, I'll be asked a question and I'll start to share, and then somebody will jump in and go, oh yeah, well that happened to me. And when it happens, when it's in the reverse and when you are not being heard, it's really, it's a really disempowering process. So I think being able to listen to someone is quite empowering. Like, you are providing them with a platform, and it is really empowering for them to know that you're there just, you know, just as an ear. You know, you don't need to actually provide advice. You don't need to, you know, give guidance or wisdom or whatever. Sometimes it's just, and I think that's what Angela was saying before with regard to coaching. I think that is the power of coaching, is sometimes people just need to verbalize what's going on in their heads, and they will have a solution themselves. It's just that they haven't been given the opportunity to go through all that thought process, the pros and cons, and actually have somebody just sit there and witness that for them.
It takes a fair bit of strength, doesn't it, to actually sit there and just listen and give it to someone else. Jen, how do you find strength in yourself? Were you going to say something then, Jen?
I was going to say that it also comes down to being present. Like, I know when the kids were growing up, I remember my son saying to me, Mum, you don't listen, because I was caught up in the busyness of life, and I'd ask him something and I literally would walk away while he was talking. So for me, it's about actually being present. And like you said, Tanya, it's not always offering answers or suggestions or whatever. It's actually just allowing them to be heard, that person to be heard. Yeah, thank you.
I had that moment. I just need to share this moment I had with my daughter. My daughter's autistic, and she's at mainstream school and very bright, but is sort of struggling with some sort of social stuff. She was telling me all her woes, and I was like trying to do dinner and trying to do this, and I was like, oh, not another problem that I can't solve. So thinking about what Tanya was just saying, I was quite calm for some reason, and I thought, okay, well, maybe I'll just listen to her. And she was really agitated and loud, and I just listened, and I had my hand on her, and she was, you know, nodding at her, and she calmed. And she was talking to me calmly, and we finished our conversation, and I went off to the kitchen, and she came up to me and said, hug, and gave me this beautiful hug, almost like a thank you for that. That was really exactly what I needed, kind of hug. And yeah, it was really just me thinking, I don't have to solve this. I just need to be with her and be present. And I guess also being that with myself, listening to myself, not beating myself up, just sort of like, okay, this is how I'm feeling, connecting with that.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Thank you. And that takes me to the next topic, I guess, of strength. Because listening, when you learn to listen, it builds strength. A lot of people don't see it that way. Jen, what are some things that help you become a stronger person so that you can say what you need to say, do what you need to do? What are some of those things to be aware of, techniques? Put some of those things in your tool bag?
Yeah, well, firstly, it comes back to, I believe, that self-awareness again. So that real self-awareness. And when you find yourself slipping or lacking that self-belief or self-worth, or I'm not good enough, then, you know, taking the time to regulate your system, and simple breathing techniques it's so simple. and yet so powerful, like breathing in through the nose for 7 and out through the mouth for 8. Grounding yourself, so taking your, I was going to say taking your feet off, taking your shoes off in nature and actually putting your feet in the soil or on the ground if there's no soil or outside, even on the floor, and drawing up beautiful energy from the earth. Or, you know, just really simple things like that, meditating, coming back to stillness. So being around the people that truly inspire you and motivate you and hold you in your power and allow you to be heard and allow you to say whatever it is you want to say. Like all of these simple techniques bring strength within, I think.
Right, so you're about to walk on stage. You're
Oh.
about to go out there and talk.
Am I?
How can you use those techniques?
Yeah, so I would regulate my nervous system, so breathing technique. I would also use visualization to visualize myself on that stage and to see the amazing people and hear their cheers, and actually draw into, I utilize my energy centers quite a lot, my chakra system. So our solar plexus, which is located just above the belly button and below the heart space, is a gorgeous yellow. And this is relates to our self-worth and our self-power and self-belief and self-trust. So I would truly call in energy into my solar plexus and allow that beautiful energy to flow throughout the body. So, you know, just these simple techniques, and breathing is just incredible. It's, yeah, so simple but effective. And effective.
Right. Angela, do you get nervous?
Sorry, I'm going to shush. What about finding voice? I just need to shush my voice.
No.
No. Go on, Natasha. What were you going to say? I'll get on to Angela.
It is related to what Jen was just saying.
Yeah.
Something that helps me, it feels like it's something I should have known a long time ago, but it's only recently come in my orbit. It's just remembering that confidence is an emotional state, not a personality trait. And I'm trying to talk to my kids about it. And just that sense of actually it's something I can tap into. There's times when I'm confident, and my daughter's very confident at home talking about slime, not very confident at school. But, you know, just reminding her that it's a feeling, it's an emotional state. You can turn it on and you can put it on. And I'm not talking about fake it till you make it. I'm talking about actually just sort of tapping into that confidence that is there. That can be there.
Your kids have that confidence, and we lose that confidence, don't we? Once we start taking on those beliefs. Ange, do you get nervous when you talk?
When I speak, I do. Like I do. I think my main thing, like I gave a talk recently to 40 people at the Brisbane Business Hub, and I wasn't as nervous as I thought I would be, because I was very prepared as much as I possibly could be. I got there early. I set it all up. I did a bit of what Jen was talking about. Like I walked through the empty space. I walked through every chair, and I sort of really almost you know, connected with the impact the connection that I really want to make with these people. So I kind of just really, so I sort of went through every chair. I imagined, you know, the people coming and the connection that we were going to have and the impact I want to make. And I sort of really made it about these people. Like I want these people that are coming and giving up their time to actually get something. So I really made it about the people and not about me. But I think that if I hadn't have been so prepared, you know, getting there early, just bits and pieces. And it's really funny, that inner state of confidence, because I caught the train into the city, and I had I've got this pink carry suitcase thing that I put my laptop in and stuff like that. And this woman stopped me in the train station, the busy station and she said, "You look amazing." And I'm like, what an omen, way to go, you know. And so I thought, you know, so it's so interesting because my inner state projected, and this woman stopped me and said, "You look incredible. What are you doing?" And I said, "I'm about to go and give a presentation," you know. And so So it was really interesting.
Fabulous.
Nice. That's a great story. And that's one of those stories, I guess, that makes you realize how far you've come. Does anyone else, Tanya, do you have any stories where you go, yeah, that was a significant time in my life for me to realize that I've actually come a long way?
Yeah, actually, something happened really recently to me with, and this was just, it's a friendship group that I'm part of, and it was interesting. We all got together last Christmas, and there is, like all friendship groups, there's kind of like a target. There's a few people in the nucleus, and then, you know, there's people on the outer edge, and then there's people on the outer edge. And anyway, the woman who created the group, she was going around, you know, giving a few accolades to everybody at Christmas time. And she got to me and she's like, "Oh, you're just easy." And what she meant by that is that you don't speak out of turn and you keep your mouth shut, which is what I do. Like, I just sort of, you know, I'm subdued. I don't, you know, don't want to ruffle any feathers. I don't want to make any waves. But recently in one of the group chats, there was something that was raised that was really bothering me. And in the past, I would have sort of like, oh no, I don't want anyone to, I don't want to piss anybody off. I'm just going to keep it to myself. And it just got to the point where, you know what, that's not the sort of person that I want to be. I want to have integrity for myself. I want to do the right thing by me, which is to, you know, to stand up for what I believe in. And basically the whole gist of it was that the woman in the center of the group is forcing one of the other women to have a baby shower, even though she doesn't want one. And I'm like, I think we should honor her wishes and not force her to do something that she doesn't want to do at 9 months pregnant. And that was a huge turning point for me. I was dancing around the kitchen like a bloody lunatic because I was like, I just voiced my feelings. I stood up for myself. And there is a high chance that I could be booted out of that group. And I don't care. Like, that is something that I would, like, I can remember photos of myself when I was in my early teens at work functions. And the thing that stood out about me was that I was hunched over and trying to become invisible in that group. There was, like, I looked like I had, yeah, I was just like, I'm wearing dark clothing. I'm huddled in a corner next to a plant, and I just do not want to be seen. And now, like, I've come full circle, and I'm so very proud of myself because I will stand up there and I will honor my feelings and my beliefs and have integrity for myself. And I was over the moon that I could recognize that transformation in myself.
That's absolutely standing by your values, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's beautiful. Wow.
Yeah. When we were talking about values before, like, integrity is my highest value. And what I had noticed on reflection of my life is that I had no integrity for myself. Like, I was, you know, I would hold other people, you know, accountable for their behavior. And, like, you know, I want people to be to have integrity with me. But what I recognized was I didn't have any integrity for myself. I wasn't standing up for myself.
It's so important to understand what your values mean to you. Yeah. Oh, love it. Thank you. Natasha, how about you? Do you have a particular time or a story that comes to mind where you can say, yes, I've come a long way?
Well, just thinking about what Tanya was saying, it might not quite answer your question, Sabina, but what came to mind was something that I actually just worked on today with Sashua in a coaching session just this morning, actually. And we were talking about, you know, I'm trying to sort of pivot a little bit more and do a lot more consultation and training, and, you know, sort of finding my voice there. And just, we were thinking about, you know, what's the obstacle, what's sort of holding me back from taking more action in that space. And I was remembering something that happened in childhood where I was at primary school, and I went to my local library, and I'd seen an advert for auditions for The Sound of Music, you know, The Sound of Music, the musical. It's a very white musical, but I wasn't really thinking, you know, I was like, oh yeah, I can sing, I could do that. So I went for this audition, and I'd asked my friend to join me as a bit of sort of solidarity. And I went first because my surname begins with A, and I was first. And the sort of vibe was like they were sort of sitting with their arms crossed, like, oh, who's this? What's this little girl? What does she want? And I didn't quite get the do, re, mi in the right order. And I wasn't chosen. And my friend was. And I remember my beautiful piano teacher, I was telling her about it. She stroked my face. She goes, oh, it's your colour, sweetheart. And my mum had said it was because I'd asked my friend to go with me and I shouldn't, because then she got chosen. So I had all these weird mixed things about this. And I was crying as I was telling Sasha. And she was sort of saying, well, let's rewrite that story, because I was really brave. That little girl was brave and really a real self-starter, and saw an advert and didn't say, oh no, I can't do that. It was like, yeah, I'm going for that. I want to be in that musical. I'm going to put myself up there. And I don't even know if I'd seen the musical because I don't know why. Anyway, but I did that, and just sort of strengthening that story. And yeah, just sort of thinking there's been so many times when I haven't wanted to do that. Whereas now I'm happy to get up. I talked at a conference this week, and I am imperfect. And this is what you get. And that is aligned with my work. My work is about have these conversations with people. Don't try and be, don't have perfection. If you get it wrong, go back and repair. So I feel a lot more aligned in my quirkiness than I was in the past. So that's, yeah, that's my story of how far I've come. That's self-acceptance.
Love it. Love it. Jen, do you have a story? Do you have a particular time where you can say, yep, that was a step. I've come a long way.
I feel that now. I can't think of anything specific. I feel it now in my business and who I am. And I'm just me. Like, I just am me, and this is who I am. And, living that way makes life so much easier for me, rather than worrying about what other people are thinking or what I've been told to say or do. So generally, right now for me, over the last couple of years, I feel the strength in just, like you said, Natasha, having my quirkiness and accepting myself wholly for who I am. And yeah.
It's so liberating, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can see the celebrations. It's like I can see the celebrations and they're happening automatically.
Yeah.
And I think that when you recognize achievements, you just tend to celebrate, whether it's like this little inner celebration, or whether you're like Tanya and you go dancing around the kitchen. Angela, what do you do to celebrate?
Well, today I thought of something new that I could do to celebrate. But we touched on this last time, and one of the go-tos I've got is buying a new pair of undies. Like every time, remember? That was one. But then today I went to this networking event earlier, and I sat across from this very sweet guy who does car detailing. And I said to him, my next big sale I make, I'm getting my car detailed, and that's going to be my celebration, because my car is filthy, but it lives outside. I don't have a garage. So anyway, so that's what I'm going to do next. I'm going to get my car detailed, because you'll never catch me dead cleaning my car.
I agree. I'm actually changing mechanics because I want to find a mechanic that will detail my car nicely when they're finished. Jen, how about you? How do you celebrate?
I like to tell people, especially my husband. He'll tell you that too. I also have a mentor and coach who is my mentor and coach, and I love to celebrate with her. And I'll have, if I reach a big goal, then I'll go and take myself for a facial or a sauna or a float tank or something special for me. But I truly love just to express it verbally with the people around me and the people I love who are there to support me in it and celebrate with me. That's the thing. Yeah.
Natasha, how do you celebrate?
This is something that I need to work on. I'm actually in another group where they quite often say, so Natasha, how are you going to celebrate? And I'm like, I don't know. Because what I tend to do is just go on to the next thing. Okay, so I've done that thing quick. Okay, I should have done it, no time to just, celebrate me. So something I tend to do is, I guess, sort of like Jen was saying, sharing it with people or writing about it. But I want to have some more little treats. Even that sounds weird, but having a bath. So I have a bath and a shower, and I'm obviously clean, but I don't tend to have a bath because it's a long time, as a busy mum, But the times when I've done that has been just so beautiful and lovely. Once before I saw clients, I had a bath in the morning and it felt so luxurious. And I want to do more of that. And there was a time when I got some rose petals and I put them in the bath. So that real pampering, indulgent, treating myself, I think would be.
And it embeds that reason to celebrate, doesn't it? It really does.
It doesn't have to be expensive. Sometimes people, you might think, oh, I need to go and do something expensive. Whereas I need to be mindful in that area. So it can just be being in my back garden or putting my fairy lights on downstairs and sitting with cider. That sort of little thing. Yeah.
Tanya, mentors, coaches, do they tell you to celebrate?
Yeah, absolutely. They do. I've been involved with quite a few coaches and mentors in the last 5 or so years, and yes, they do. And that's something that I think as women and maybe even as children, we're taught not to do. It's just don't brag. You can't brag. You can't tell everybody how great you are because then you're stuck up. But I think it's really important for us as women, and a really empowering practice to get into, to really celebrate the big wins, the small wins. I mean, whether it's as simple as me dancing around the kitchen like an idiot because I stood up for myself, or I like to share my stuff with my kids because I think it's important for them to learn that, that when you get something right, when you try something, especially if it's something that you haven't done before or something that you're afraid of the outcome of, it's really important to celebrate that win and to share that with people. And I think as a community of women that work for ourselves and who, we're all in the business of empowering other women, I think it's important for us to celebrate that stuff, online and in public, to demonstrate that, being a powerful, successful woman is a good thing and it is worth celebrating.
Oh, so good. Do you know what? I'm looking around this screen and everyone's got a smile on their face. And I think it's so important to celebrate ourselves, but it's also so important to acknowledge other people's celebrations and to celebrate with them. And on that note, we're over an hour. So on that note, I'm going to end this session. I want to say thank you to you all. I've thoroughly enjoyed listening to your stories and the advice and the tips and techniques that you've all got. I've taken away a lot from this session, and I hope everyone else has too. So thank you, and looking forward to the next one.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
See you
Bye.
next time. Take care and bye for now.